You are watching something right now that could completely change the balance of power in Washington for the next decade. And almost nobody in the corporate legacy media is explaining what it actually means. After that major Virginia Supreme Court ruling that slammed the brakes on what critics are calling one of the most aggressive Democrat redistricting attempts in the country, the fallout of that, along with other major things going on right now, could reshape the House of Representatives before the 2026 midterms even begin. But what you'll find out if you stick with me to the end of this video is that this fight is about far more than Virginia. It's about power, population shifts, and political survival. You're not going to want to miss it. Let's get into it. All right, guys, welcome back to RPW Media. My name is Rich, and we are the antidote to the daily onslaught of radical progressive propaganda. Look, if you like our videos already and you haven't done so, you should become a subscriber to the channel. You can hit the notification bell, then smack that like button because it helps us get our message out to a lot more people, and you'll be notified every time we put out a new video, and thank you. All right, so something very strange is happening right now in American politics. And if you only watch the legacy media, you probably have no idea how serious this actually is. Because according to a growing number of conservatives, Democrats may have just hit a political wall that they can't climb over. And the panic level behind the scenes, it's getting interesting. This entire thing exploded after the Virginia Supreme Court issued the 4-3 ruling, striking down a Democrat-backed referendum that would have completely redrawn Virginia's congressional map. Now, this was not some tiny adjustment around the edges. If you watched our video, you know that critics describe this thing as a political nuclear weapon. The current congressional balance in Virginia seats 6 Democrats and 5 Republicans. The proposed map would have shifted that dramatically toward Democrats, a 10-to-1, creating what opponents called one of the most absurdly titled congressional maps in the country. Now, here's where the story gets even worse for Democrats. The court did not strike this thing down over politics. They struck it down because the process itself violated the Virginia Constitution. You see, under Virginia law, constitutional amendments must pass through 2 separate general assemblies before voters can even touch the issue at the ballot box. So what that means, guys, is that one legislature has to vote. Then there has to be an election. Then after that election, a different legislature, the second legislature, then votes, and then it goes out to the people if it passes both of those. Okay? Only then can the voters weigh in. It was a simple process, but I mean, basic constitutional procedure. Apparently too much to ask of modern politics, because what happened was the Democrats completely ignored it. I mean, critics argue that Virginia Democrats and Governor Spanberger attempted to bypass that second legislative vote entirely and fast-track the referendum straight to voters. Now, why? Because time was running out for them. And according to opponents, they wanted the new map locked into place before political momentum shifted any further toward Republicans. All right? Now, if this ruling had gone the other way, it may have dramatically altered control of the House before the 2026 midterms even started. But instead, the entire strategy just detonated in court. And conservatives believe this could be the first domino in something much larger, because Virginia is not the only state where these redistricting battles are happening. Not even close. Louisiana, Mississippi, South Carolina, Tennessee, multiple states are now involved in legal fights over congressional districts, race-based mapping, and constitutional authority. And Republicans increasingly believe the legal terrain is shifting in their favor, and it is, especially after recent Supreme Court rulings targeting race-based gerrymandering practices. Now, Democrats absolutely hate hearing this part. For decades, critics have argued that congressional districts were intentionally drawn by connecting communities hundreds of miles apart in order to manufacture safe political seats. This was the racist gerrymandering that Democrats were doing since the 1986 Gingles case. But the case of Louisiana v. Calais, recently heard and ruled on by the Supreme Court, is now being viewed as conservatives as a direct threat to that system. And if additional rulings continue moving in this direction, Republicans believe Democrats could lose a substantial number of seats before voters even walk into the voting booth. That's why this Virginia ruling matters so much. This is not just about one map. This is about the rules changing underneath the political machine itself. Now, Let's talk about the numbers, because this is where Democrats really start sweating it out through their MSNBC makeup. Right now, projections suggest Republicans could hold as many as 217 safe to leaning House seats following this ruling. It's 217. Guys, you only need 218 to hold the majority. So that means Republicans would only need one of the 11 toss-up seats in order to hold on to the majority. Just one. Even during the Democrat wave election of 2018, Democrats still failed to sweep every toss-up district. And now the map environment may be getting even harder for them. But wait until you hear what some Democrats are reportedly talking about behind closed doors, because this is where the story gets less like a constitutional government and more like a collapsing banana republic. According to reports surrounding the controversy, some Democrats are actually floating a plan to remove the entire Virginia Supreme Court from office. Seriously. The proposal would reportedly lower the mandatory judicial requirement from age 73 to 54. Now, that's convenient. Facing every current justice off the bench would be their goal, and they'd be able to do it if they changed this law. Amazing coincidence there, huh? Purely accidental, I'm sure. Critics are calling it a gut and pack strategy designed to replace the current court with progressive judges willing to overturn the redistricting ruling. Now, Democrats are the ones that always talk about saving our democracy. Here, they're not getting what they want because they violated the law to try to get it, and yet they're trying to now rig an election by rigging the redistricting plan that they failed because they didn't do it properly. You know, in other words, if you lose the game, remove the referees. That's what they're trying to do. Very healthy democracy stuff there, right? And here's the real problem for Democrats. Time may already be working against them. Virginia Department of Elections Commissioner Stephen Kofsky reportedly warned that May 12, today, represented the point of no return for implementing congressional district maps before election systems and ballot programming become too difficult to safely change. Meaning, even if Democrats attempted some kind of emergency judicial overhaul, legal experts believe the timeline alone could make it nearly impossible to pull off before election preparations become locked in. Now, combine all of that with another massive trend that Democrats do not want to talk about, which we did in our video yesterday. Population migration, because Americans are moving, and they are not moving randomly. Families, businesses, retirees, and workers are leaving heavily Democrat-controlled states and heading to places like Florida, Texas, Tennessee, and other red states in huge numbers. And those population shifts matter enormously because congressional representation is based on census population. Every person leaving a blue state weakens Democrat political power over time. Every family arriving in a red state strengthens Republican influence heading into future elections. Okay? This is why conservatives increasingly believe we are witnessing something much larger than a normal election cycle. And remember, guys, when you lose enough people of your population, you lose a House seat. And with every House seat you lose an elector. So it hits you at local, at state, federal, congressional, and also presidential politics. So you got court rulings, population shifts, congressional maps, legal challenges, all of it moving in the same direction at the same time. And if Republicans continue benefiting from these trends, Democrats could face a brutal reality over the next decade. It's not just losing elections, losing structural political advantage. Now, obviously, politics can change fast. Nothing is permanent in the world of politics. Republicans can absolutely screw this up because political parties have an amazing ability to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory, especially the rhinos. But right now, many conservatives believe Democrats are watching years of political planning unravel almost overnight. And judging by some of these increasingly desperate proposals, even Democratic leadership may realize the ground underneath them is starting to crack. You know, at the end of the day, voters are paying closer attention than politicians think. Americans are watching the economy, the migration patterns, the court rulings, and the growing frustration across the country. If Republicans stay focused on issues that affect ordinary families instead of getting distracted by political theater, They may be entering one of the strongest electoral environments they've seen in years. And if Democrats refuse to adjust course, voters may adjust it for them. So tell me what you think in the comments below. I love hearing from you guys. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.